Hello everyone and welcome back to my attic crawl space. We've been focusing a lot on that mysterious tiny little door over there, and we're taking guesses for what's behind it at whatsupwithsethstinydoor@gmail.com. Again, it's very unlikely we will ever check that account, let alone read any of it on the air, but you know, what else are you doing? Now, I've also noticed there's been some speculation online about another aspect of our makeshift setup here, the Thornbirds. Of all the books in my house, why did I choose to highlight this 1977 Australian romance novel that was later adapted into a hit 1983 television miniseries? Have I actually read it? If so, why? Am I secretly 78 years old? Maybe I'm not actually at my house, but my parents' house. Or maybe I just want to prove to everyone that on top of being a well-known bibliophile who's up on the latest literary trends, I'm also an old soul who loves a steamy read about a torrid affair between an innocent farm girl and a hot priest. Anyway, if you have any guesses, send them to whydidsethpickthethornbirds@gmail.com. There's almost no way we'll read anything you send us, but you know what the hell. You can either spend your time doing that or trying to recover the password to your workout app, giving up, and taking a 3-hour bath, like the rest of us. And while you're doing that, the president and his allies are trying to wish away the coronavirus pandemic and hoping you'll forget that he badly botched his response to the crisis. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. As we have seen throughout his presidency, Donald Trump is both an emblem and an enabler of a broken government. And that government has put lives at risk with its arrogance and incompetence. For example, at one of his daily press conferences this week, as the U.S. was continuing to face down a deadly virus spreading rapidly throughout the country, he bristled when the word testing came up and complained that it wasn't the federal government's job to test people.
Testing is still a big issue in this country. When can hospitals expect?
Put the slide up again, please.
When can hospitals expect to receive a quick turnaround of these test results?
Are you ready? Hospitals can do their own testing also. States can do their own testing. States are supposed to be doing testing. Hospitals are supposed to be doing testing. Do you understand that? We're the federal government. Listen to me. We're the federal government. We're not supposed to stand on street corners doing testing.
Trump thinks testing happens on street corners because if he weren't president, he'd definitely be selling fake tests on street corners right now. Be set up in Times Square with a bunch of Q-tips laid out on a black folding table. Who needs swabs? We got your swabs here. What? No, lady, they're not Q-tips. They're high-quality medical swabs. Look, if you're not buying, just move on. I got a lot of customers here. Also, if you don't mind, I want to go back to this part.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
It's such a dickhead move to ask someone if they're ready, like you're about to blow their minds. He's like a guy sitting at a piano saying, check this out, and then pecking out chopsticks at half speed. I also love the sheer audacity of this guy asking someone else if they're ready. Remember, Trump is the guy who in just 4 years went from this,
I alone can fix it,
to this.
And we're a backup. Remember, we're a backup.
Trump thought he alone could fix it until he saw what it was. It's like when you used to go on road trips with your buds and your car would break down. You had that one friend who was always like, hey, pop the hood, I got this. And then, he'd just stand there for a while, hands on his hip looking at it. And then you finally say, damn, there's a lot of stuff under here. You have AAA? And now, as the outbreak continues to intensify and the death toll mounts, NPR reports that the federal government will end funding for coronavirus testing sites this Friday. In a few places, those sites will close as a result. You think now is the time to cut off funding for tests? Are you insane? It's like getting halfway through surgery, taking the guy's spleen out and saying, all right, you can wake him up. He can sew himself back together. That's the easy part. And then today we learned roughly 17 million people have lost their jobs in just 3 weeks, as the death toll passed 15,000. And yet Trump is once again rushing to pretend this will all go away and hoping people will forget that, as we detailed yesterday, he literally ignored years of warnings about the threat of a pandemic.
Ultimately, the goal is to ease the guidelines and open things up to very large sections of our country as we near the end of our historic battle with the invisible enemy. There's tremendous hope as we look forward and we begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Once we open up our great country, and it will be sooner rather than later, the horror of the invisible enemy, except for those that sadly lost a family member or friend, must be quickly forgotten.
I love that Hold a Grudge Jones over here is telling us we have to forget it and move on. The same guy who is still so mad at John McCain that he tweeted McCain was last in his class at Annapolis 7 months after he died. This bull is the same as people who act terribly, and then when you point out their terrible behavior, cry, "What of civility?" Civility isn't a right, it's earned. And sometimes people don't deserve it, just like people don't deserve their bad decisions to be lost to history. And nothing gives away the game of how badly Trump has handled this, like Trump telling us now we have to forget about it when it's over. During World War II, Winston Churchill wasn't thinking, I never want to hear about this again. He was chomping on a cigar thinking, when this is over, there are going to be 1,000,000 books about how hard I crushed this. Or however he would say it. Probably like this. It'd be like that would like preface it. I mean, we should all forget about it. Trump's like an employee at Wendy's who gets fired, shows up drunk in the middle of the night, takes a in the Frosty machine, scribbles Donald was here, and passes out naked in the parking lot. When the cops come to arrest him, says, guys, that was all yesterday. Let's move on. Also, stop telling people there's a light at the end of the tunnel before there's actually light at the end of the tunnel. No one who actually knows anything about this says we're going back to normal until there's a vaccine, which takes at least a year to 18 months. Just listen to Dr. Anthony Fauci.
When you gradually come back, you don't jump into it with both feet. You say, what are the things that you could still do and still approach normal? One of them is absolute compulsive hand washing. The other one is you don't ever shake anybody's hands. That's clear. The other thing, depending upon your status, the possibility that when you are in a group of people that you can't avoid the 6-foot limit, and you can't stay out of 10 feet, that you might want to wear a cloth face protection.
The toughest part about that... Son of a bitch. Is there a second Thornbirds now? What in the world? Sorry. The toughest part of that advice for Donald Trump is the no handshakes rule, because as we've seen from his meetings with world leaders, he locks onto them with a death grip and will not let go. Remember how long he clung to French President Emmanuel Macron? I'm pretty sure they had to be surgically separated. That is a man desperate for human contact. One of these days, Trump's going to pull Macron in for a handshake and slap on a pair of handcuffs. Oh, look at this. And no, I accidentally swallowed the key. I guess we have to be best friends for life. So tell me, do you really eat snails? And then there's the advice about masks. Now, we know Trump does not take medical advice. That much is clear. I mean, look at him. It looks like he gets his fake tan by sticking his face in the microwave. That's either a terrible fake tan or the world's largest freckle. And Trump certainly doesn't listen to actual doctors. Instead, he listens to TV idiots like Sean Hannity. At one point, Trump admitted he got his information about ventilators from watching Hannity. And on his radio show, Hannity referred to himself as Dr. Hannity.
I just saw on your show, and a couple of other people just reported back to me that everyone is in great shape from the standpoint of ventilators.
I would, based on all I know, Dr. Hannity for Dr. Hannity, I'm my only patient. I would absolutely use it if I got this.
People always get this wrong. You're not Dr. Hannity, you're Dr. Hannity's monster. Sorry. You're not qualified to give anyone medical advice. You look like you've only ever had one medical procedure, and that was to have your neck removed. Trump listens to fake doctors more than he listens to his real medical doctors. For example, after the CDC officially recommended that every American wear a mask or face covering when going outside to slow the spread of the coronavirus, Trump announced the new guidelines from the White House podium and then immediately contradicted them.
The CDC is advising the use of non-medical cloth face covering as an additional voluntary public health measure. So it's voluntary. You don't have to do it. They suggest it for a period of time. But this is voluntary. I don't think I'm going to be doing it.
In a way, it makes sense, since Trump's face already looks like a mask. One of these days, he's going to rip that thing off and reveal he's actually Bodhi from Point Break. It's a Point Break reference. Seriously, what's wrong with you? You can't announce a new public health measure to stem the tide of a pandemic and then immediately say you're not going to do it. Can you imagine him proposing to a woman, will you marry me and make me the happiest man on earth? For a while anyway. I don't want to get tied down. You know what? We should see other people. Or at least I should see other people. You're welcome to stay faithful to me. The CDC even recommends it. And not only does Trump ignore doctors, he thinks he knows more than they do. Remember when he visited the CDC headquarters in that hat and windbreaker and held up a printout like a gym teacher subbing in for a science class? Check this out. It's a, I don't know, it's a germ, something like that. Looks like it's called Wikipedia. Anyhow, quiet down. We're going to spend the rest of the class watching Bull Durham on Laserdisc. And then he claimed that because his uncle was smart, he personally knew a lot about coronavirus.
And I like this stuff. You know, my uncle was a great person. He was at MIT. He taught at MIT for, I think, like a record number of years. He was a great super genius, Dr. John Trump. I like this stuff. I really get it.
No, you don't. You look like you wandered into the middle of a press conference from a tour. You should be holding a map with a Nikon camera around his neck asking the scientists for directions. You guys know how to get to Times Square? I want to buy some swabs. I hear it's the real deal. Second, you don't even know what your uncle taught or how many years he taught, but you know he was a great super genius. Was your uncle Wile E. Coyote? Taught at MIT for a record number of years, but he could never catch the Roadrunner. You know, he's the one who told me there was a light at the end of a tunnel. A real tunnel. Not one painted onto the side of a mountain. That was the day that Trump said anyone who wants a test will get a test. And now he's cutting funding for testing. And I know he'd prefer it if we were all Drew Barrymore from 50 First Dates and we'd wake up each morning and say, President Trump? Oh, I'll give that a chance. But that's not how most of our brains work. We remember the things you said and then we hold you to account for them. And now it looks like our chance to do that will be in November in a race between Trump and Joe Biden after Bernie Sanders officially dropped out of the presidential race yesterday, which sucks for a ton of reasons, one of which is the timing on Medicare for All. Would have been pretty great right now, given that we're going through a massive healthcare emergency in which millions of people are also losing their health insurance. Maybe we're finally all learning now that tying your healthcare to your job was a stupid idea. I mean, what do they have to do with each other anyway? If we really wanted to make healthcare commensurate with your job, then nurses, delivery workers, and grocery clerks would get free gold-plated healthcare for the rest of their lives, and racist game show hosts would have to pay $1 million to replace every tooth that falls out.
God bless the United States.
You have to admit, Bernie fundamentally changed politics, and he did it in the course of like 5 years. Let's just remember how extraordinary this was. I mean, his first campaign began in 2015 when he wandered up to reporters, I guess in a park, and told them he was running for president, and also that he was too busy to talk to them.
Okay, thank you all very, very much for being out here today. Let me just make a brief comment and be happy to take a few questions. We don't have an endless amount of time. I've got to get back.
I'm so bummed we passed up on the chance for a president who hated pomp and circumstance as much as Bernie did. His State of the Unions would have been 10 minutes tops. Please hold your applause until the end, or, hold it entirely. I don't care much for empty displays of enthusiasm. When old people give standing ovations, it's very silly. I mean, he walked up to them like he'd been in that park all night. Get out of here. You're scaring the birds. There's a very delicate ecosystem. Also, did he personally carve that podium himself and decide to stop after making the top? Who needs a full podium? It's too ostentatious. And in a fitting way, Bernie bookended his 2 campaigns for president with an announcement in a park and a fiery speech from the Senate floor last month in which he fought to protect extra pay for workers who lost their jobs due to the pandemic.
And now I find that some of my Republican colleagues are very distressed. They're very upset that somebody who's making $10, $12 an hour might end up with a paycheck for 4 months more than they received last week. Oh my God, the universe is collapsing. Imagine that. Somebody who's making $12 an hour, now like the rest of us, faces an unprecedented economic crisis with the $600 on top of their regular unemployment check, might be making a few bucks more for 4 months. Oh my word, will the universe survive?
Sarcastic Bernie is the best Bernie. I think it's his Brooklyn accent. He's like an old-timer working a shift at the Park Slope Food Co-op dealing with snooty newcomers. Excuse me, there's no more organic arugula? Oh, my word! You'll have to make your fancy salads with regular arugula. Imagine that. How will the universe survive? We need those kinds of major changes to deal with the broken government that Trump is currently exposing. He ignored years of warnings about a possible pandemic, lied about it when it arrived, forfeited responsibility to the states, pushed an unproven miracle cure, and is now asking us to just forget the whole thing. And if you beg him to provide leadership, he responds by saying,
I don't think I'm going to be doing it.
This has been A Closer Look. 3. City Harvest is such a great charity, and now they're working hard to support New York City families who are out of work due to the COVID-19 pandemic. If you're watching this online, please hit the donate button, give what you can, stay safe, wash your hands. We love you.